Hello, I'm Annie Davey. I've been telling Bible stories to children for many years. If you want to know about the background, where I got some of the background detail from, you can look it up on the web on truthortradition.com or www.korky.info, where we've written a book called Jesus, Faith and Fact. So it's all in there somewhere, but there's some interesting things here which you may not know. You may think you do know the stories, but wait and see. So let's see what we've got. Now this is the second part of the story of Queen Esther. So here she is standing at the entrance to the throne room. Do you see this great big stone entrance with this great big heraldic beast? It must have been really impressive. And the throne room was with gold and silver and blue hangings. It was splendid. And there was the king standing at the other end. Would he welcome her in? Would he hold out his golden scepter? Or would he ask her for her to be dragged away? Well, when he looked up and saw her standing there, he said, "Esther, my darling, come on in. I'm so sorry I haven't had time to see you for such a long time. Come in, my dear." So she went in and he said, "What can I do for you, my dear? I haven't seen you for such a long time." She said, "Well, my lord, would you come to dinner with me tomorrow night and bring your Prime Minister, Haman?" Oh, he said, "That would be lovely. We'll do that." So in the evening, she got a banquet together. Splendid food, she knew just what he liked. And the Prime Minister, Haman, came too, and he thought he was the cat's whiskers going to dinner with the king and queen. He thought he'd really arrived. And then, at the end of the dinner, the king said to her, "Now, my dear, I want to give you a present. Ask me anything you like, even up to half my kingdom. I'm so pleased to see you." She said, "Oh, I wouldn't ask for such a thing, my lord, but would you both come to dinner again tomorrow night? It's been such fun." He said, "Yes, we can do that. Can't we, Haman?" And he said, "Oh, of course, yes, of course." And he thought he'd really arrived. But that night, when the king went to bed, he couldn't go to sleep. I expect he hugged his teddy, and in the end, he called for his servant. He said, "Read me a story." And so the story said, "Well, what sort of story?" He said, "Well, one about me, of course." So they got the tablets of clay and they read him a story about once, not long ago, a man outside the palace had heard two people plotting to kill the king. And he got a message to the king to say, to the people in charge, to say, "Look out for these two people, they're going to kill the king." And the king said, "What did we do to reward this man?" And they said, "Doesn't say here, so don't think we did anything." He said, "Well, that's no good. We ought to reward him. He saved my life. Send for Haman, the Prime Minister." So poor Haman was bundled out of bed in the middle of the night to go to the palace and whatever's happening. And when he arrived in the king's bedroom, the king said to him, "Listen, I've just heard this story about this man who's saved my life by reporting a plot to kill me. What should we do for the person that the king really honours?" And Haman thought he might mean him. So he said, "Well, sir, let a royal robe be brought from the royal wardrobe and put on the man, and let him be put on one of the king's favourite horses, and let somebody lead him through the streets of the city, saying, 'Look, this is how the king likes to honour somebody with whom he's very pleased.'" And all the time he could see himself in that robe and on that horse. The king said, "Oh, what a good idea. You do have some good ones. I want you to do that for Mordecai." Mordecai, thought Haman. Oh no, not him. So he went home in a flaming temper and he told his wife, and his wife said, "Don't worry, dear. You'll be getting rid of all of them next month, won't you?" Oh yes, he thought. Right. Well, the next night came, time for dinner with the queen again. So Haman got ready and he went along and joined the king and the queen, and it was a lovely meal. And when it was over, the king again said to Queen Esther, "Now then, my dear, tell me what I can give you. Anything you like, even up to half my kingdom." "Well," she said, "Lord, please, I shouldn't have told you this before, but please, will you spare my life and that of my people?" He said, "What are you talking about? spare your life, silly girl. You're living in a perfectly safe place in a palace with a harem and guards around you. She said, Sarah, I didn't tell you before, but I'm Jewish, and I and all my people are going to be killed next month. He said, what? She said, and I know that being queen is not going to save me because your decree has gone out. And he said, who ordered that? And she said, that man there, and pointed to Haman. He sent out the decree. What? The king stormed out into the garden. He was so furiously angry. And then Haman threw himself at the queen's feet and clasped her robe and said, oh, your majesty, I didn't know, I had no idea. And when the king came back in and saw Haman actually touching the queen, he was furious. He said, get your hands off my wife. Guards, take him away. And they took him away and threw him into jail and got rid of him completely. My goodness. And then the king sent out another decree, and all the people were saved. Well, they were allowed to fight for themselves. He couldn't change the decree, but they were allowed to defend themselves on that day. And so, in the end, it all ended happily, except for Haman. And the king was short of a new prime minister. So he asked if Mordecai would become his prime minister. So little Esther, who grew up in a Jewish household with no parents, but just with a foster family, became the one who saved a whole nation of people. She had been, these words here, she had been very afraid. Have you ever been afraid? And she had felt very alone. She must have been very small standing at that big throne room door, mustn't she? And so what had she done? What we must all do if we're stuck. She'd asked God to help. And so just by having the courage to do that and to do what she felt he told her to do, she saved a whole nation of people. Absolutely amazing. So when you're stuck, this is what you need to do. Ask God to help. See what he says, see what ideas he gives you. And what have you got to do? Do the right thing. And you'll know what the right thing is. A bit like Greta Thunberg, who knew that the right thing to do was to tell people to stop using so much carbon and causing such damage to the planet and the earth. And Greta, I think, was only 15 when she started doing that. Now, I think she's 19 or 20 now, but all the world knows about Greta because she's trying so hard to get people to save the planet. So it just takes one person to do the right thing, and lots of other people get the same idea and things get changed. So it's a challenge, isn't it, this story? So in March, when you hear about Purim, now you know what that story's about. God bless you too.